Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise and blessings of Almighty Allah be on the seal of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and all those that follow his footsteps from now until the day of recompense. My name is Dr. Abu Bakr Adam, and I welcome you once again to our special course of understanding government economic policy making. Today, Allah's willing, we're going to conclude our first module of this particular course. Hopefully, inshallah, you are all on your way to become great macroeconomic analysts. In today's lesson, Allah's willing, we're going to look at the economy and be able to predict what's going to happen to the economy based on different scenarios that I'm going to present to you. As I have said earlier on, an economist is just like a medical doctor. A medical doctor always carries examination, history taking, and be able to predict what's going to happen or what's wrong with the patient. The same thing with an economist. An economist looks at that blooming, boozing, and confusing data and make sense of it. You can all do the same, so long as you continue to follow step by step on how to make excellent economic policy making in our class. Secondly, an economist can set a target for the economy, just like a doctor. When a doctor looks at the patient and examines him and predicts what has happened to him, he'll be able to set a target, to say to the doctor, to say to the patient. The doctor can say to the patient that your sugar level should be at this particular level, it shouldn't pass this particular level, or your high blood pressure shouldn't pass this certain level. The same thing with an economist. An economist can set a target for the economy, that this is where we want the economy to be. If you could recall when we discussed the potential GDP, where we said that the labor force growth and the productivity growth put together will bring you to that level of potential, the right level at which you should grow as an economy. So the same thing with an economist. Having collected all the relevant data, he will be able to predict and be able to set a target for that particular economy and where that economy should be. Without delay or wasting much of your time, I want you to have a piece of paper, draw the horizontal axis and label it as GDP, and then draw the vertical axis and labels it as price level. If you have done that, I want you to draw the downward sloping aggregate demands curve. You know, the aggregate demands curve entails C plus I plus G plus X minus M, which is consumption, investment, government spending, export minus imports. That's what drives the aggregate demand. So now, having done that, I want you to draw the upward sloping aggregate supply curve. Aggregate supply, everything that is produced by firms within that economy. That's what the aggregate supply is. Everything produced in units of all production in that economy. All services, supplies, anything that is supplied within that economy. That's what an aggregate supply, and it's driven by cost, as we have explained in our previous video. Aggregate supply is usually driven by cost in the short run. So look for the equilibrium, the intersection, and now put your GDP there. That's your equilibrium GDP. So next, if you've done all that, you know that the horizontal axis carries the GDP and unemployment, and then the vertical axis carries the price level and inflation. So without delay, let me take you to the first scenario. Scenario number one: stock prices rises. Okay, if you have gotten it correctly, then we should assume, based on this, when stock prices goes up, it means people have more wealth, and as a result of that, they're going to spend more into the economy, and that is going to drive the aggregate demand shifted to the right. When the aggregate demand shifts to the right, what will happen? GDP is going to go up, unemployment is going to go down, and on the vertical axis you will have inflation going up. Now let's go to scenario number 2. The Nigerian government decides to build light intercontinental rail across 36 states. What will happen to the economy? Government spending is an element of aggregate demand. So when there is an increase in government spending in the short run, aggregate demand is going to shift to the right, then GDP is going to go up, unemployment is going to go down, and inflation is going to go up. Now let's go to scenario number 3. The government shuts down all activities as it debates a raise in debt ceilings. So, government spending or whatever economic activities when shut down, then aggregate demand is going to slow down, and that's going to go down. Aggregate GDP is going to go down, and then unemployment is going to go up, and the good side of it is inflation is going to go down under normal circumstances. Now let's go to scenario number 4. Scenario number 4, petroleum product prices collapse across the globe. Now this particular scenario has 2 sides of it, and the first side, for a country that imports petroleum products, what will happen to their economy? And the second one, for a country that exports petroleum products, what will happen to that particular economy? Good. In the first scenario, which is import a nation that imports petroleum products, that's going to affect their aggregate supply, because firms that make use of petroleum products are going to buy these petroleum products at a cheaper rate. When they buy petroleum products at cheaper rate, it means they're going to make more production. Aggregate supply is going to shift to the right, and that will make GDP to go up and unemployment to go down and inflation at the same time to go down in the short run. In the second scenario on this particular issue, for an exporter nation, export is part of the aggregate demand. So when exports reduce, or the input from the revenue from exports go down, declines, then you will see a shift of an aggregate demand to the left. When an aggregate demand shifts to the left, what will happen to the economy? GDP is going to go down, unemployment is going to go up, and then what will happen next is inflation is going to go down. Finally, the government increases payroll taxes in order to, across all the companies, in order to pay for healthcare services. Good. Now all companies are now affected. When companies are affected, cost has gone up. So when cost goes up, then aggregate demand aggregate supply, aggregate supply is going to shift to the left. When aggregate supply shifts to the left, what will happen is GDP is going to go down, unemployment is going to go up, and then inflation level is going to go up as well. So you see GDP going up, going down, unemployment going up, and inflation at the same time going up. More of a stagflation kind of, scenario. So if you've all gotten all these things correctly, all these scenarios correctly, congratulations. You're well on your way of becoming an excellent macroeconomic analyst. Allah's willing, in subsequent lessons to come, we're going to discuss issues related to the fiscal policies, the monetary policies, the structural reform, and some of the interaction in the economy. And Allah's willing, you're going to gain a lot of benefit as we continue to carry out these particular lessons, and you continue to follow step by step of all that we have to cover as far as government economic policy is concerned. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the upcoming module, that is module 2.